Everyone, welcome, and I'm excited to dive in today to our demo. We'll give folks a couple more minutes before we get started, but stay tuned. I'm excited to dig in and share a little bit more about what's new with Grapple. Let's get some music going. Let's try chill music. Let's see. To my side a preview or not preview our new homepage. So last week or a couple weeks ago we launched askgrapple.com, which is a slight rebrand of our previous cloudgrapple.com domain. And my headphones are going to die, so I'm going to take them out and my audio might cut out for a second. Okay, I'm hoping you guys can hear me okay. I had to run this through my computer microphone instead of my AirPods because I'm having some AirPod issues today. But as I was saying, we went through a slight rebrand for Grapple a couple weeks ago. We changed from cloudgrapple.com to askgrapple.com. And alongside that, we also shipped our brand new AI interface. So you can build an entire dashboard in Grapple with basically zero pointing and clicking. We now have this command bar that you're seeing demoed to the side of my face in the homepage, and it's just really fast for moving through and building a dashboard. And today we're going to leverage this to build a customer report card to understand which of our customers might be ready to upgrade and things like that. So we'll dive in here in just one more minute, and thank you all so much for joining. Cool. Well, let's dive in. Hi, my name is Jack Selwood. I'm co-founder and CEO of Grapple. Grapple is the fastest way to work with your data. It's the world's first do-it-yourself data platform. And what do-it-yourself means is that we're making a promise to you that with Grapple, you can always do everything you're trying to do in your dashboard yourself. There's no custom code or SQL. If you've used products like Looker or Tableau or Power BI, these tools are self-service. But I think most of us are pretty sick and tired of hearing about self-service tools because they aren't usually actually self-service. What self-service was supposed to mean is that you'd be able to go in and pull dashboards and build reports totally on your own, that you would be able to service your data needs yourself. If you talk to non-technical users, that's just really not the case. And so with Grapple, we're trying to build something that helps people who are non-technical, but still are data savvy, want or need to work with data, be able to work with their data directly. So Grapple can complement your data team or your existing data stack, or be an all-in-one solution. What that means technically is you can connect directly to your data sources with Grapple, bring in the data, and then immediately start working with it. And that sounds really simple, but there's an enormous amount of technology that goes on under the hood to make your data queryable and high quality. And one of the things that helps with that is Grapple's universal data library, which automatically models, normalizes, and cleans your data so you can work with it right away. And then Grapple does have AI, as you can see in the loop that's running on my screen. You can interact with your dashboard with natural language, but there's a lot of really solid data engineering and data science fundamentals that drive Grapple. We're not just prompting on top of ChatGPT or some sort of SQL wrapper. There's a lot of really powerful data stuff going on under the hood to deliver quality results, and natural language just happens to be the way that you kind of interact with and work with that data. So let's dive in and build a dashboard. So I'm going to head over to Grapple. And if you've watched previous live streams with me, we usually dive in and sort of build a dashboard from the ground up right away. And I'm going to take a step back and just kind of show you around Grapple before we immediately start building something. So here we're looking at a dashboard I've already built, showing what my sales team performance looks like. Andrew's our top sales rep. The US West region is our top team right now, and we can kind of see all the underlying data down here for that as well. There's a couple cool things in Grapple. If I want to jump to a data set, like for example, this is telling me here that this closed won column is coming from HubSpot deals, I can click on the logo and actually jump immediately to my HubSpot deal data. And I can use this to just kind of explore things. So if I'm new to data and I just want to find what deals are closed, I can't spell today, closed won, I can do that. And not super impressive, but again, Grapple kind of is a one-stop shop for exploring and working with your data. And one of those things is just jumping around and seeing what your data looks like. And so in the data library section over here, we can see that when I navigated to deals, this section was expanded, and I can navigate and explore kind of all the other sections that I have access to, all the data. And I can even look at, Google Sheet, for example, that I brought in, and this is all interactive, so I can sort and start to kind of work with the data. Bringing data into Grapple is also really easy. This week, we just added support for HeyReach. So if you're running LinkedIn campaigns with HeyReach, you can now bring your campaign data into Grapple to understand and analyze performance. Recently, we've also added support for Adio, which is an AI CRM, Ordway, ConvertKit, now known as Kit. So tons of data sources here. If you're an open source company, you can now pull in your NPM download history and start to track your open source traffic. If there's a data source you'd like to see added to Grapple, let us know. You can email us or chat with us at askgrapple.com. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see our face pop up, or my face pop up, and you can chat with me and request a data source, and we'll work on adding it. So if we jump back here to this dashboard, and we can see in the upper right-hand corner all of the data that's being used on this dashboard. And I can actually click on this HubSpot logo to see kind of what a map of the data looks like for this project. And so we're starting with our HubSpot owners, which you can think of like sales reps, and then Grapple automatically joined for me my deals, and then join deals to contacts, companies, and line items. And let's say you want to bridge, for example, your sales reps or your owners with like a rep attainment or quota Google Sheet. You could do that here. You can click plus on owners and maybe joining on the rep's email, join to a Google Sheet, for example, on their email, and you could bring that in. I don't have a proper demo ready for that today, but you could do that with a Google Sheet. Today, we're going to focus on building a report card of our customers. And so you also could call this a customer health tracker. And we're going to use a feature today called rollups. And so if we click into Ask Grapple, I can see all the features that are available to me in Grapple. I can add new columns, I can create a spreadsheet formula, and then I can also create a rollup. What's the difference between a formula and a rollup? This is a question we get sometimes. So a formula is something that you're used to in something like Google Sheets, and it's useful for operating across an individual row of data. So let's say I had a first name and a last name, and I wanted to make a full name from those. I could merge those two columns with a formula. A rollup is a little bit different. A rollup can operate across joined data. It can operate across several rows and return a single value. So visually what that looks like, if we jump over to the map of this project, starting from companies, a rollup can traverse this tree, do some calculations, and then return back a single value. And that sounds a little technical, but if you used Airtable or Notion, there's the concept of rollups in those as well. And so here, for example, from companies, if we wanted to count the number of contacts or count the number of deals for each company, a rollup could help us do that. But rollups can also do more powerful things. You could, for example, from each company again, roll up and get the most recent deal created date or close date. Or maybe you want to reach all the way in and find the last time the customer had a payment that wasn't succeeded. You can use rollups to query across all these relationships really, really easily. If you've written a data notebook before or something like that, rollups are sort of our mini version of something like a data notebook, but it's just a single column. And so if we head back to this project, I've actually already created a couple rollups, and we'll see those in a moment. So here we have the company name, the ID, and as I scroll over here to the right, there's two rollups. So the first one is it's creating a rollup from payment intents, so my Stripe payments. And if I click on this, Grapple shows me a little friendly translation of the calculation that's running under the hood. And so it's telling me that it's summing all HubSpot contacts, Stripe customers, Stripe payment intents, and amount all into this field. And so we can see here that Adobe, and this is all mock data, has done about $9,000 in payments. And then we have another deal over here. So this first one is summing across several rows, whereas this one on the right is returning the most recent closed one close date. So when was basically the last time the customer had a deal that closed? that's showing over here in this other column. So sort of different queries, but the same thing applies. The reason they're both rollups is that they're operating across a lot of context. They're operating across several rows and then returning a single value. And that single value might be a static value, like in this case, the close date. We're not adjusting the close date, we're just getting the most recent close date. Or in the case of a sum, it's returning an aggregate across several rows. And so if you're ever trying to return something that sort of traverses the map of data that you saw a second ago, that's when a rollup is really helpful. And so we're going to join some more data today and then create a few more rollups. So let's create an easy one. I'm going to come here to Ask Grapple. And actually, the first thing I want to do is I want to filter out customers who don't have a country, for example, specified in HubSpot. So I'm going to type in filter, and then I can say a country is set. And Grapple will translate this to only countries, to return only companies that have a country set. And we can see here that it inserted a new filter here. And I could click on X to remove the filter, or I could modify it. So we could say country is United States. We can modify this filter, and we'll see the dashboard or the data update here automatically. So I think that's fine. Well, actually, I'm going to change this back. I'm going to go country is set, just so that it's set to something and not empty. Let's pull in another column really quick. I'm going to delete this company's ID because we're probably not going to use it. I'm going to come up to Ask Grapple and Add, and then I'm going to search. I can search through all of the columns available to me across the entire tree of data I'm working with. And I want to pull in the industry of the company, and we can see that it added that over here. And I'm just going to drag this over and pull it over. Let's do one more thing. Let's create a rollup. So now we're going to create our first rollup. And again, rollups operate across the entire tree of data. So again, looking up in the upper right-hand corner, a rollup will help us query across, starting from my HubSpot companies, any relevant HubSpot data or Stripe data. So let's just return the count of contacts. So how many contacts does each company have? You could type a query like that in Grapple, and Grapple will understand it. Or if you want to be a little bit more direct, you could just say count contacts. Grapple automatically knows that we're starting from companies, and it's totally up to you depending on the preference you have for doing that math or describing that prompt. And so here over on the right-hand corner, we can now see that it created a contact count, and it can show us what math it's doing, which is pretty cool. Let's start to visualize this. And so I'm going to come, and I can type Command K to jump to the Ask Grapple bar. And I'm just going to create a bar chart that goes, who are my top companies by count of contacts? And so this will start to generate a chart, and we can see that most my account with the most contacts in my CRM is Google China. Maybe you're doing this to sort of build a weighted lead list or something. In this case, we're doing a health tracker. And so maybe we're going to use contact count to indicate a warning if there aren't very many contacts for a company. I can always audit a visualization that I'm seeing in Grapple. There's a lot of AI data products out there, but what's distinctly cool about Grapple is that we generate very little non-deterministic code. What that means in sort of layman's terms is that there's very little in Grapple where we're letting the model generate arbitrary code that we're executing on the data. In most cases, we're giving it a very narrow set of parameters of settings to set rather than code to write. And so if we click on the settings for this chart, we can see that we chose bar chart, the model automatically selected large for us, and then the model selected for us the groups, the math, and the sort to build this chart. And so that gives you the ability to audit how this chart is being created, and also know that the model's not doing, for example, it's not generating a query that's way bigger or way more complex than you needed. You can precisely control, and we can modify what the model's doing under the hood. So right now this is grouping by company name. But I could remove this and I could modify it, for example, and we can see it reacting in the background as I do this. We could change it to industry. And so we can see that we have 305 contacts for companies that have a country. And so, and then the next, it looks like some of our companies don't have an industry, and then publishing is really our second most popular identified industry. And so what's cool is I can create a bar chart first with natural language or any chart and then modify it. Let's do a few more things. So I'm going to come up here. I can't remember all the data that I have access to. So let's come into deals, and let's click plus, and then I'm going to come down to owner. HubSpot owner ID, and I'm going to add a new join with my owners on HubSpot because I want to pull in my sales reps. And now I'm going to click save, and Grapple automatically added owners. So as your sales reps own deals, there's a relationship there. So now when we go back to the customer health tracker, let's add a roll-up for whoever the rep is that closed the most recent deal. Maybe we use that name for context about the account. So we'll come up here and we'll choose a roll-up. I'm going to take a quick sip of tea. And we're going to say, pull in the first and last name of the owner for the most recent deal. And that's going to run in the background. And let's see if it did it. Hooray! Rollups are one of our most ambitious features for Grapple, and I always get nervous in a live stream showing them because sometimes they do break. And part of that is a rollup can do pretty much anything on the joined data, and so it can't write, but it can read it in any way. And so sometimes I'll ask a rollup that's too complicated. So here we're pulling in the owner first and last name. And I want to rename this field, and so we support renaming. I can just say like sales rep as the name, for example, instead. And I want to pause here and just explain a little bit about the data science behind what we're seeing here. So we're using rollups again to traverse across all of this nested data. So we used a rollup to jump from company to deals to owners, and then from the most recent deal, so not all deals, just the most recent one, pull in the first and last name. That is a pretty sophisticated query that we're running, and traditionally you'd write a ton of SQL to do it, and we did it with all natural language, which is really cool. Just to explain a little bit about the data fundamentals, I'm going to create a new project, and this is a little bit of a side quest, but I thought it would just be helpful to explain a little bit about the power of rollups. So I'm going to jump over to my companies and basically create the same project. And so I'm going to click Start Project, come up here, and our deal data is joined, but owners aren't. So just like on the last project, we're going to join in owners. And now we have owners joined. So without a rollup, if I come in and add, and I type in first name from owner, and I add it manually, what you'll see here is there's what's called fan out or Cartesian explosion. And so, for example, University of Oxford actually has multiple deals. And actually, let's just pull in the deal name really quick to make this make more sense. So we can see here that the University of Oxford actually has, and I'm going to collapse the sidebar, has multiple deals because maybe one is like their first year renewal, and maybe it's another renewal, maybe one's an upsell that went through, maybe one's not. And so each company has multiple deals or potentially multiple deals, and each deal may have a different owner. And so if we were to pull in, for example, like we are right now, just the first name from the HubSpot deal owners, you can see that it's actually creating multiple rows. And that's a problem if we're trying to aggregate data or just get the most recent. And there's ways that you could use filters to load all deals and then filter down to deals created after a certain date. But it's just kind of really complicated. It would be a lot nicer if in this first name column, we could add some logic that said only return the first name of the most recent deal. And so let's actually add in the close date. We actually want, I chose the wrong field. We want a close date of the deal. And if you ever have duplicate column names in Grapple, you can see that one's coming from companies and one's coming from deals. So we're going to remove the one related to the company. And so you can see here, these have different deals. And we could, for example, even sort to put the most recent on top by sorting descending. And actually, we need to sort by company name first so that we have two sorts. And so, we lost our Oxford. Let's just, to filter this down, let's add a filter and say company name contains Oxford. kind of explaining what's going on behind the scenes with this data. And this is a little technical and in-depth, but I just thought it'd be kind of helpful to explain the data science behind this. So here, the University of Oxford has a few deals. They have a couple new business deals and a couple expansion deals. Their first two deals were in 1970. And then they have deals in 2024, 2025, and then two in 2025. And so these are distinct deals. And if we want to get Andrew's name, for example, we would need logic or some sort of formula that would tell us if it's the most recent. And it's not the most recent from all companies. It's most recent for this customer. And so a rollup helps us apply that logic. So when we go back here to this customer health tracker now, if we look at Oxford, we should see here that Andrew is the sales rep with the most recent deal. So a rollup is providing a lot of functionality. So the way to think of this in Grapple is whenever I'm looking across that join tree, I should probably be using a rollup, because a rollup will for me automatically calculate across that entire tree. And if this is confusing, I would love to slow down and either show you how to use it or build a dashboard for you. You can always shoot us an email or get in contact with us on the website, and we can take care this for you. Or if you have feedback on a better way for me to explain this, I'm all ears. But let's continue building our customer health tracker. We only have a few minutes left. So here, again, we have companies here, and then we have the total amount of payments, most recent close one state, the total number of contacts. I want to pull in data from my actual app for this customer, and I want to flag companies that haven't logged in recently, because maybe I'm worried that they might cancel. So I'm going to come up to map data. And on contacts, I'm going to join with my database. And so I'm going to choose email. And for this use case, we're using Supabase. Supabase is a hosted, managed app database with Postgres. Yours might be someplace else, and Grapple can probably connect to it. If it's on AWS or no matter where it is, we can sync with it. So I'm going to choose Supabase. This is where my users are sort of registered for my app. And click save. And we'll see here now that companies go to contacts and then users in Supabase. And what's cool is I can click on the logo here on users, and it will open a new tab, and we can see, again, just a preview of this data in Grapple. If I wanted to explore all the columns that are available to me, I can do that. And so I see here that there's a last login. And so we're going to use this last login column for the dashboard we're building to pull in the most recent user login for each company. And so I'm going to close all these tabs. I'm going to come back and now use the Supabase data. And so we can see in the upper right-hand corner, we're bringing in Stripe customers, still HubSpot, but now we have a new logo, Supabase. And so we're going to use a rollup to pull in the last login for the entire account, right? An account might have multiple contacts and multiple users. And so if I come up here to Ask Grapple, I'm going to choose rollup, and I'm going to ask get the max of the user last login. And one thing we're working on, and it's not ready quite yet, is we don't suggest, we don't like sort of look at what you're typing and look at the data you've mapped and suggest rollups, but we're working on that. And so you could imagine in the future that as I'm typing get the max, it auto suggests or auto completes for me things I might want to type in. So this is a pretty big rollup. There's a lot that could go wrong, and it might totally crash, but let's see if it works. It may have crashed. To test this, let's add a filter to only return when there's a max login. So we'll come to filter, max login is set, we'll say. Interesting. So it thinks it's set somehow, but it's not showing. Let's try the format field and see. So that errored it. Let's re-prompt this because I think something went wrong. Like I said, rollups can be kind of tricky to use sometimes, and we're rapidly improving them. Let's try this one more time. Get the most recent user login. And we'll filter down and say user login is set. Okay, so I think something's going wrong behind the scenes. I'm going to go behind the scenes and try and fix this for us so that we can have some fun. Give me a minute of time, and oh, it looks like it should be working. Yep, okay, I'll file a bug report for that. It'd be really cool if we could actually see that here, but like I said, something's going on that we haven't quite figured out. So I'm gonna click delete, and we'll remove this field. And we could still get pretty far with this dashboard, but yeah, like I said, something is weird. Let's just make sure we did this join correctly, and it looks like we did. And so that's kind of interesting. But let's actually, just to close out this demo, let's build some logic in that will flag accounts to us that we might want to follow up with. So I'm going to add one more rollup that says return the latest deal stage. And we just want to know what the most recent stage of the most recent deal is, because if a customer has a stage that isn't closed won, we might want to follow up with them or just be aware that they have an open deal when interacting with them for support, for example. So we have a few rollups now. We actually have 5 different rollups in this project. I was able to create all of these with natural language. I didn't have to, and even with natural language, I didn't have to go back and forth with a chatbot several times. I didn't have to use a node building interface to move stuff around or add stages and click a bunch of things. I was able to build all these rollups, as you saw, in just a couple seconds. So now we're going to come in and add a formula. And you might ask, like, why are we using a formula? We just use a rollup. And we have a conversation at Grapple going all the time about, should we just automatically select for you rollup or formula? But we think it's actually important to think about which each is doing. So formula, again, is going to operate across a row of data that I'm looking at. And a rollup is going to operate across the tree of all my data that's joined or mapped in. And so, for example, if we wanted to, if the latest deal stage is not closed lost and not closed won, return a high priority status. And if the customer has payments that are 0, return medium. And if the contact count is less than 5, return low, or something like that. We're operating across a row. For example, with Adobe, we're going to look at their sum of payments, most recent download, sales rep, and deal stage. And so we're operating across an individual row. And so what's cool is formulas can work on top of rollups. So you can add a bunch of rollups to sort of calculate all of these special computed values, and then you can add a formula that operates across over them. And so I'm going to come to Ask Grapple and choose formula. And this is where things get a little interesting. We'll say create customer priority, and we'll say hi if latest stage is not closed, won, or lost. Medium if contact count equal to 0 and some payments greater than 0. So what we're saying here is, like, if a customer has payments but we don't have any contacts for them, like, that's something to worry about. Or we could get kind of crazy with it, or vice versa. And then we could also fall back to if has most recent closed won, fall back to low. And this logic is kind of crazy, but now Grapple is going to generate a big formula that's going to operate across multiple rows in this project to return a score to me. And so we can see that score here that's operating. And so now if I wanted to, I could come up and add a bar chart and go count per priority. And we could see a roll-up of how my customers, sort of what the priority. So we have a lot of customers who are high priority. For example, we have 828 renewals in progress, and then a lot of customers of low priority and then medium. So that kind of gives us an understanding of kind of what's going on with these companies. So we could maybe prioritize the ones that are high. If I'm an individual customer success rep, I might come in and filter down to just my list of accounts and then check in and follow up with those customers that are high priority. We are basically at time. If you would like me to build a dashboard or show you how to build a dashboard in Grapple, head over to askgrapple.com and click the chat in the lower right-hand corner, or feel free to use the contact form on the website. You can also sign up for an account at askgrapple.com by just logging in with Google, and we're here to help you with your data problems. So whether you're using Grapple or not, I'd love to set up some time, sort of like an office hours experience, and just walk you through whatever you're working through, whether it's in Google Sheets, Tableau, or Excel. Get in touch, and we'd love to help you. Thanks so much. My name's Jack, and good luck working with your data. Thank you so much.